CNET News Executive Editor Ian Scher joins us now from Capitol Hill. Ian, thanks for being with us. Of all the topics that will be brought up at this hearing, what is the core issue Zuckerberg thinks he needs to address?
Trust. It is all about whether or not people can trust this company that has a user base that's larger than any country on earth. 2 billion people use it every month. And this data scandal has rocked whether or not we can trust these people to have all of this data. And not just, by the way, my baby photos and what I ate for lunch, but my political leanings, my religious beliefs, all sorts of stuff that people make available on Facebook all the time. That stuff now, people are realizing, oh my gosh, it's not as private as I thought.
Yeah, and it's clear from all the polls coming out that trust is eroding. Now, Zuckerberg will be pointing to some of the privacy changes Facebook has implemented to protect users' data. Have those changes been well received, and why did it take so long?
I honestly don't know why it took them so long. We're talking on 14 years now, and they're just starting to really catch up. And they need to answer that question, frankly. Whether or not it's being well received is a hard one to tell. I know that there are a lot of people who are still just coming to this scandal and learning how deep it goes and how bad the situation is. But I'll tell you that a lot of the experts who watch this stuff in Silicon Valley say that they are surprised that there's so much attention to this because we've been talking about it for years. But they're happy, at least now, that this is being talked about and that people seem to be taking it seriously, including the U.S. Congress.
Yes, indeed. Now, one of the measures they say they implemented was a notification service for users who were impacted by the Cambridge Analytica data controversy. How effective is that notification system? I mean, I understand it was supposed to have started yesterday, that notifications were supposed to have gone out. Do you know of anyone who has received them?
In fact, one of our own reporters received one, and she wrote about it on CNET, so you can read all about that. But no, look, it is effective insofar as drawing people's attention to making Facebook look like they're on it, right? And that's one of the biggest problems they've had is that, you know, on top of actually screwing up the first time and not telling us for 3 years that this had happened and allowing this to happen in the first place and losing control of our data, they also mangled the whole PR strategy around what happened once these stories broke. And this was back a month ago. And so now showing people that they're on it, communicating with us, trying to be as transparent as possible, even coming up here to Capitol Hill, it's a way for Facebook to say, no, we really do get how serious this is, and we're going to try and fix it.
Now, we know that lawmakers are pretty eager to push for some rules to keep Facebook and other tech companies in check. How do you think Zuckerberg will respond to questions about regulation? I mean, he's got to see that one coming.
He definitely has to see this coming. And look, he's already said that he's open to regulation. I remember when we were watching the CNN interview he did after being silent for days, and it was this big moment. And in the middle of the interview, he said that he was open to regulation, and the entire newsroom was shocked. Because Silicon Valley for decades has resisted regulation. They've been able to avoid it because Congress largely doesn't even understand how technology works. And so now the fact that this might actually be happening is really interesting to all of us. He's already said he's behind the Honest Ads Act, which, you know, you may remember it makes it so that online ads for political reasons have to be treated the same way as they are on TV and radio, where they have to say who sponsored the ad. But more regulation may come. You know, the European Union is doing far more privacy regulation than the United States, and it looks like the United States might be getting ready to actually catch up.
Well, you know, Zuckerberg and others like him signaling that they may be ready for regulation may just indicate how big the problem actually is. You know, Facebook has been around for over a decade, and why does it seem like some of these tech giants have gone unchecked in terms of regulation for so long?
I mean, it comes right back to what I said earlier. Congress just doesn't understand technology very well. And there's a greatest hits of these things that you can read up any time, right, about senators who think the internet's just a bunch of tubes and all these types of jokes that have gone around for years. And the problem is that because they don't understand it, they can't regulate it, right? But now you have, first off, a lot of their staffers are people who grew up with the internet. So you've got people who actually understand technology working for them now. And you've got much more interest by the public in actually doing something. You know, when Silicon Valley was the this favored child that was just creating a bunch of jobs and unimaginable wealth, and their CEOs were these rock stars who were like the embodiment of the American dream. No one wanted to regulate Silicon Valley. But now that they've stepped in it and they've caused some serious troubles, it's time to do something, and Senate seems to have the backing of the United States people.
Right. It's gone from seeming to be sort of a fun novelty that was creating jobs to something that could be very nefarious, and we have to point out this is Mark Zuckerberg's first hearing on Capitol Hill. He will appear in a suit and tie instead of his typical hoodie. Some have called it a growing up moment for him. Do you think this is the biggest leadership test he's faced to date?
Without question. And it doesn't even matter whether or not he's had harder times before. This is his hardest public moment that he has had. He needs to really prove to everyone that he's serious about it, and he has to come across as authentic. One of the side conversations that's been going on is that he is very uncomfortable in public. He's talked about this actually in that CNN interview. He doesn't like to do interviews. He doesn't like to be in public. And as the CEO, it is his job to do that and to do it effectively. And if he isn't able to come across to Congress as authentically sorry and that and prove to them and make them believe that he's going to fix this, it's just going to make things worse.
Yes, his tone will be very, very important. Ian Scher on Capitol Hill, thank you for your insight.